Yes, sir.
Oh, we are live. What's up? Welcome to FiveTwenty Collective. It's a staff call. We got Zero. We got KD. We got Shane. I'm Eric.
What's good?
Make sure you check out FiveTwentyCollective.com. Indie Christian culture. We got kids in the background all over the place. We'll deal with it.
We'll deal with it. Right.
Yeah, we'll deal with it. So, a couple quick things. Let's see what we got going on this week. Obviously, we got the staff call tonight. We're going to talk about a movie that some of us just watched. And then Friday, we got the recording for the podcast happening. So make sure you tune in. Our discussion topic is the line between, what do we say? Between Christianity and patriotism. Between Christianity and patriotism on this month's podcast. So that'll be fun.
I've been sending out messages.
And then we got, right? And then we got a Twitter Spaces happening Saturday night. So Friday night we'll be back here live on YouTube and Twitter. And then Saturday night Twitter Spaces. We'll talk a little bit more about that Twitter Space at the end. Let's see. Let's run around real quick, fellas. Anything you want to say before we hop into this?
Nope. Happy Hump Day.
No. Hump Day.
All right, so we recently watched this movie called Church People. I came across it on Amazon Prime. It actually came out last year, but I noticed that more people were like kind of doing some like reactions, reviews of it, or whatever. I'm guessing that it hit Amazon Prime and people started noticing it. So I don't know. At least that's how I did.
Okay.
But so it's written by Thor Ramsey, who's a Christian comedian, right? And it's got some people that are going to be some actors that are definitely going to be known to the general public in it. So I shared it in the group chat and said, "Hey, have y'all seen this?" KD watched it, and we were like, "Let's talk about this movie." And it's like I said, it's actually inspiring what we're going to talk about on the Twitter Spaces as well. So we're kind of setting that up. And then Zero watched most of it.
I watched about
Jay Shane has not watched any of it, so we're going to try to convince him on whether or not he wants to watch it. But let's start by checking out the trailer. The trailer is about 2 minutes long. So Zero, you ready for me to play on that?
Fire it up.
Okay.
I told you if we broke attendance records, I'd get the church logo tattooed on my arm.
Yeah, remember back when we first started? All we did was preach the gospel.
Ooh, Superman works. I like Superman. Guy, what do you think?
What happened to you?
Me? Your dad is the one with the gimmicks.
The power of the Holy Spirit propels us.
I just want the church to get back to the gospel.
Problem is you're trying to get your message across.
The gospel?
Right. And ain't nobody listening to that.
For Good Friday and Easter, I need something big. Amen?
Bigger than the resurrection.
Bigger than anything we've ever done. National headlines.
Preach on the death and resurrection of Jesus.
Plan. An actual crucifixion.
Uh-oh.
By placing the nails through your palms in the right place, we hope to avoid major nerve damage.
That part was funny.
Operation Stop Skip is a go. That's awesome.
You have to cancel this Good Friday stunt.
Don't be so dramatic, honey. Ooh, I like the rusty ones.
What are you gonna do?
I told him he's insane.
Been praying for you about that toe fungus.
This could be beneficial for all parties involved.
We foster a yes environment here.
God wanted me to marry you, and you could be my wife.
I have an answer for you.
All right, so let's start
It skipped a lot.
by
at the
just
end.
Sorry.
I said it skipped a lot at the end there.
Well, good enough.
Let's just leave this up on the screen. This will be the. Oh no, it's gone.
Right? No, it's gone. It's gone.
All right.
Jay Shane, tell me what you think about the trailer before we hop into more detailed stuff. You're the one guy here who hasn't seen it.
I mean,
you have to tell the truth.
bro,
this is a Christian show, man.
I grew up in Charismania, so like I mean that's the term for it, right?
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
I grew up in Charismania. Like most of my family was the church that we went to was very non-denominational charismatic. So like very focused on like TBN-esque type stuff. And I don't even know if that's okay for me to say on this podcast.
I'll allow it.
But yeah, man, just a lot of craziness, man, and like even in seeing this, it seems like it's a film it's designed to expose some of that, I guess, to try to like add more or to like to speak to that, but I'm a little scared, to be honest with you. It seems like it's a little over. As we say back where I come from, it's a little extra in that regard, in what they're trying to say, what they're trying to do. So, I mean, you guys can let me know if I'm off. I'm off just by seeing the trailer.
No, I think you're right, but I think the one thing that the trailer doesn't tell you is that it is satire. It is a satirical film, whereas sometimes you get Christian movies where it seems like satire, maybe, but it's not. If that makes sense, like
I don't know, man. I think the trailer does tell you cinematically that it's a comedy satire movie.
It's definitely comedy, because I mean, when you're talking about it's being written by Thor Ramsey, who's a comedian, you know,
a lot
he's been
of the
on
transitions are like side swipes, and it's like reserved specifically for comedy films. Like whenever it's every time they change, you're like, oh, okay, I get it, it's a comedy.
But it's not just supposed to be funny, though. I mean, it is done in a satirical way whenever you get in and really get into the film. So I'll say that. And then cast-wise, I mean, we talked about Thor Ramsey. You got Stephen Baldwin, right? So you got actually two Baldwin, but Stephen Baldwin is and Stephen's an executive producer on the film. And anytime I see him, I can't help but think about Biodome, which was one of my favorite movies when I was a teenager. He was in there with Pauly Shore. So, I mean, I know he's different now, but I can't help but think about that. We saw Donald Faison, who, you know, my all-time favorite show is Scrubs, and he's Turk from Scrubs.
He's really good on Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah. So I like Donald Faison.
How Zero looks like Donald Faison?
That's not funny.
Or is it
a little bit?
Listen,
no.
Bro, the facial expressions that you were making, man, come on, man, stop playing.
Desi, they trying to say.
Now he's gonna mute himself as he's yelling at his wife. I see how it is. But Joey Fatone, and then you got William Baldwin, who's Steven's brother, who's also married to China Phillips, and they play, you know, a couple in the movie.
My wife says no. I don't look like him.
You kind of do.
She's the final authority. I'm just saying, though.
You kind of do.
She says she's not going to be on the podcast too.
Well, probably because you look like Donald Faison.
That's the real analysis. Is her.
Yeah. Let's see, and then who else was?
So, quick housekeeping. The levels are peaking just a bit on the YouTube. Just FYI.
Oh, on YouTube.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. Let me try to fix that. Thank you.
So, but yeah, and then Joey Fatone was NSYNC, right? He was part of NSYNC. Was it Backstreet Boys?
Is that a little better?
I'm gonna tell you, I'm not ashamed if I don't know because So
now I'm gonna.
Now you gotta Google.
Now I'm gonna confirm for sure. I think it was NSYNC.
Which was he the dreamy one?
No, the bootleg.
Yeah, he was in NSYNC. So he plays the worship leader.
That's why he looks so familiar. Yeah. I know. Okay.
And he's also the voiceover guy for Family Feud with Steve Harvey.
I totally thought that he was the guy from that Food Channel, and I was like, "That's not him." Yeah, don't he look like that guy? Man,
I give you that.
I'm telling you, when you start performing, you gain a lot of weight.
Right? Yeah. So, I mean, going into it, I don't think any of us had super high expectations, right? Because we're like, okay, it's a Christian film. We all know the stigma that comes with it. But I don't know. Like, I guess I've got my thoughts, but let's go, KD. What were your kind of thoughts as you watched through it? I watched through it twice, and I'd say that stuff kind of changed for me the second time I watched through it. But let's go to you, man.
Well, I didn't get to watch it the second time. And now that you said that, though, I kind of wish that I did, and I may still, after this, check it out again. I think when we talk about stuff like this, and I think it deserves this because, like, some of the comments, Zero, if you guys don't know, we have a Discord server, and everybody's in there, so Zero was making observations, cinematic observations, and I think, unfortunately, because a lot of times we just try to write off a lot of what we do from a media standpoint is corny, but supportable because it's gospel. And so I think certain aspects of those things need to be talked about, casting, filming, you know what I'm saying? Saturation, like those things can be discussed and should be, because holistically we want to look at this, right? Does this make the kingdom look good? Not just from a message standpoint, because then we can also talk about the doctrine, which a lot of the Christian movies fail in the doctrine aspect. And there's unfortunately like a lot of half given. And I know you can only do so much with an allotted amount of time. You got a run time of 90 minutes, if that. So there's only so much that you can do. But just even from a core basic stance, and especially like in scenes where you actually get to preach the word. Like don't give, some watered down NIV version, man.
You talking about that one slider film shot with the college kids?
The one spot, the one time where we actually see the youth pastor or the youth minister ministering, it's just like this half concocted kind of mixed up. So it's just kind of incomplete. So those snapshots I hate, and those are sometimes the things that people are going to see and grasp. It's just like 140 characters on Twitter or your post on Facebook. You only get to see so much. You don't really get to have a conversation. You're typing and you're talking with your thumbs. And so you can't really relay everything that needs to be relayed. So it's unfortunate. So I get that part, but I would still like to see that better done. For me, and I'm always a big, how do we end up? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm big on starting at a place, ending in a place. And to me, ultimately, and of course we can talk about it, I think the ending of the film, I thought that part was fantastic. I don't think the acting is bad because, of course, we see a lot of that. I think the casting is really well done. I think actually the guy who wrote it, and I was telling this to Eric after we first watched it, I think easily he's the worst actor in the movie because everybody else appears to be a little bit more seasoned. There's a difference between stand-up timing and actual comedic timing from film-wise. You know what I mean? Like, chops like that and stuff. But overall, it was one of the better films that I've seen. I won't put it on, on par with like War Room. Of course, the content was different, but package-wise, overall, I won't put it on par with like War Room or Courageous or Fireproof because those are really like some top tier Christian movies. But I won't put it down there with like, Ain't Misbehaving, That Church After Dark, bootleg stuff that we slap together and try to, call it a Christian film for the sake of, you know, calling it Christian. Some of the stuff, like, I hate to say that, like Play is done with like movies and stuff like that, that if you scroll through and you find, and it's just really slapped together, even though, you know, Urban D is in it and other people, it's just really, and it doesn't tell a story. Like this one is paced well, the story makes sense, it's very realistic, and then, like I said, the ending for me really kind of ties everything together. So like I said, I would put it past the middling place of Christian films. Like, it's one that I would not be ashamed to tell other people about.
That's a good test. That's a good test. It's like whether or not you're ashamed to show it to your friends. Because there's a lot of music like that I'll give it a pass for the sake of a platform or a playlist or something. Like, don't play that at work. Like, just skip real quick. So, yeah, I don't think the movie is that. I have a bit of a higher standard for what I'm going to put my seal of approval on as far as, like, this context. Now, I will watch some garbage. I'll watch some trash. Like, I watched the first season of Ruby. Anybody who watched the animation from that is just, that's hot trash. Good story, good script, trash. But this movie, let me see. I have to, like, break it down into little things. Like, first, was there anything distracting from the story? And for me, it turned out to be production stuff. So there's something called light motivation, and light motivation, it's setting up your lighting in such a way that, yes, your actors are lit, but your light is coming from a place where it should come from. So let's say you got a window over here. Excuse me. You got a window over here, and you can see that the sun is up. This is where most of your lighting should be coming from, because that's where the window is. That's the motivation for the light. And then if you want to do some key lighting and stuff on other areas, it needs to be subtle, but that needs to appear to be the natural light. This movie has no concept of that. There's a scene where they're sitting in the truck and it looked like they got shop lights literally right up by the headlight, and it's just like beaming in the dude's face, and they're sitting having a sweet moment. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, there's no light motive. Like, there's no reason for the lights to be that bright, and it was distracting. Because I'm like, are they sitting by a restaurant? Are they by somebody got their brights on? Like, what's going on? So there were some things like that really did bug me production-wise, and I don't think it would bug somebody if they weren't looking for it. Like, as a photographer, that's the kind of stuff I look for. What else was there? There were way too many subplots in this movie. I felt like things just kind of happened, and like the writer had, like, okay, this is the scene where the daughter comes in, and this is the scene where he finds out that it's his girl, and this is the scene where he goes to talk to the, and so it's like things happened, and so like the pacing and the transitioning from subplot to subplot, I didn't think that was done real well, but the scenes themselves were okay. You know, there were some scenes that were like, I think this is meant to be over the top. Like where they come out of the church and the guy's putting on the sunglasses and it's all in slow motion and they got like their hair's blowing in the wind, and I'm like, okay, I get it, it's a joke. And then there's some stuff like, I'm not sure like what's going on here. Why did they decide to do it this way? Like where the girls are having this confrontation and they're moving, and then the other one moves, and then the other one moves, and I'm like, okay, we get it. Like, she likes him. Like, okay, like, it wasn't terrible. I felt like with all of the subplots, the romance story, the family story, the main story, the second romance story, like all this stuff, like some of that needed to be cut, and then we would have been able to get deeper into what should have been more impactful moments, like when he meets his daughter and everybody says Mabel, and I'm like, okay, why did they keep saying that? Like, clearly everybody else in the film knows about this Mabel backstory except for me, and I'm the one they're supposed to be explaining it to. I don't know. Maybe when I watch it the second time, I'll see what they're talking about. But like the first time, I was just like, why do they keep doing this? And it was funny, but I felt like it was out of more. You said what?
That was out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like it seemed almost like a throw-in because the movie's moving at a certain pace, and then here comes the curveball. Oh,
it's almost like they shot it at a certain length, and then they went and cut more scenes into the movie. Like that's what
Somebody
the
said it
pacing
wasn't
feels like.
long enough.
It wasn't long enough.
No, somebody probably went in and said, "Hey, here's the story. You know what? This isn't long enough. What we have already.
Yeah.
But what if we do this? Ooh, plot twist." And
that does happen
back.
in Hollywood a lot, and I can see how a regular story could get messed up, and people keep injecting their stuff. So maybe there was some of that in the background. I don't know. I haven't read the IMDb page. There was something else I wanted to say about this movie. Me and my wife spent a lot of time arguing about what lenses they used because the camera work was great. At least for like their main camera, like their main wide shot, the 2 close-up shots were amazing. And then there was like this weird third camera from time to time that was like always on the slider. Did anybody else catch that? It was like the one artsy camera guy who was always doing something different than the other 2 camera guys. Like that was
no, but I think that's the photographer in you coming out.
Yeah,
too.
maybe it was.
Bro, I'm working with a GoPro 7, a GoPro Hero 7, man.
That's not a bad camera.
You're lost on me right now, man.
Well, there was a lot to this, to the cinematography where I just look at the setup and I'm like, this looks great. Like I can tell it's a set, but it looks great. The lighting is dead on in some scenes, and in some other ones it's like not quite there, but that camera is good. And speaking of cameras, there's a position called the focus puller. They did a great job because you don't notice any of the focusing. It's a person who manually focuses the scenes, and they do a great job in this movie, because I'm watching another Christian movie where there's constant hunting and it's constantly going in and out of focus, and like I'm like, the focus puller not doing his job in this scene. So like you shouldn't notice stuff like that. So I think for the things that matter that I'm looking for as a photographer, cinematographer, hit and miss. Like I said, the story, it didn't flow super well, but I'm still needing to see how it comes together. And then the jokes were pretty good. I laughed out loud a few times. So did my wife. I just I didn't take it too seriously, so I wasn't really looking for doctrine or anything. Like for a movie called Church People, there weren't a lot of church scenes, except for in the beginning of the movie where they were trying to make a point. And so like you get like during those establishing shots that, oh, this is Big Eva, this is a evangelical, you got the beach balls and stuff. Like they set the tone there, so you know what kind of thing, and then it goes to like your college campus youth group thing. But other than that, like I don't really get a sense of what the people are like, except they're totally charismatic because you got that one like weird greeter who just like knows stuff because it's convenient to the plot. Chad, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's Stephen Baldwin.
Yeah. So I thought he was pretty funny, but other than that, yeah, that's all I got to say.
So now. I mean, so for me, it was one. I had pretty high expectations for the comedy in it, knowing that Thor Ramsey's a comedian. Donald Faison, I think, is hilarious. So I was hopeful with that because I mean, you get some other Christian films where they try to put some funny stuff in there, but it's almost like they're scared to really just be funny, so it comes off cheesy more than anything, right? Hi, baby.
Forced, yeah.
Okay. Sorry. And then, but for this one, I feel like they did a good job, and it's because I mean they took that satirical approach and they really embraced. And I feel like we need to do more. We could see more of this too, but I feel like they really embraced we're going to point the finger at ourselves. We're going to talk about a problem.
Yeah, that like it seemed to be very self-aware.
Yeah.
Like the movie was poking fun at itself, and that was kind of funny to see.
Well, but pointing a finger at the church and saying this is a problem, this needs to be addressed, and this is how we're going to address it. And they didn't hold back. They embraced it. They went for it, and whether it worked or not, I mean, I would give them credit for the fact that they just went for it. I don't think that they failed.
Give me an example of like one of the funnier scenes that you felt like other movies were.
Oh man,
be afraid to. Like I think the golf cart scene, like that.
That was funny. I think when oh shoot, what's the kid's name? Now I forgot. What's the kid that's going to be crucified?
The kid was hilarious. Him to be a non-actor, like he was great. I was just thinking about that. Like he,
what was his name?
Blaine or something like that.
Blaze. So when Blaze comes in and talks about having mannequin lust, how many
he was just he just went for it.
How many Christian movies are going to have that scene in there? Like, is it wrong if I find mannequins attractive?
And then, it's a whole bunch of dudes at the crib, like, ooh, uh-oh.
And it was emblematic because there's always that one guy in the youth group that's like trying to find a way around porn somehow. He thinks he's the genius.
Yeah,
that's what that reminded me of.
But I think that they did a really good job right from the beginning, telling you like setting it up, saying this is what we're gonna do. It starts with showing you how something that started off genuine quickly becomes a show or a gimmick as that popularity gets involved, right? As that ego gets fed. So I think that's something they did very well. And the over the top mega church pastor too, right?
Oh yeah.
Like we saw in the trailer, he's got the assistant that comes in holding up the Superman costume. He's like, oh, I like that, but then they take that and they put in these little things, and I've noticed it more the second time I watched it. Dude, there is a lot of notable quotes that I felt were really well written. Like whenever the pastor is with Stephen Baldwin's character, right? The greeter, Chad.
Mm-hmm.
Chad. And the pastor says, I'm not a real superhero. And the Stephen Baldwin's response is, you could be, sir. Like,
and then his
dude,
eyes
come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Well, it seemed like his character was written that way, that like everything he said could be interpreted as an inspirational quote.
Yeah, well, but there was other stuff too. Like, let's see, I made a couple of notes here. So I think another exchange that really caught my attention. This was the second time I was watching it, where when they're getting ready to get in the bus to go volunteer at like the, I don't know, like a kitchen or something,
right? Yeah.
And Thor Ramsey's character and the pastor's daughter are arguing right as they're getting in there, and before they get in the bus, Blaze says to her, you guys were finally starting to gel, and she's like, but we were arguing. He's like, yeah, but you were mad about the same thing. I was like, dude, that's a really good line to me.
I was a little bit annoyed that she had her whole character arc for me felt like am I gonna end up with the guy that you see from every Christian movie, like the main romance of like,
yeah, well,
and it just seemed like her mind was just focused on that all throughout the movie. But I can't tell if the movie was making fun of it, because like at the beginning he was like, wait, didn't you just have a boyfriend or something? Like he just came right out and said, and that's exactly what I was thinking. And finally says it, and I'm like, exactly, like yelling at the TV.
Yeah, well, and that goes back to what you guys are saying. I mean, I definitely made this note as well. That storyline jumps pretty quickly. I would have liked to have seen some stuff develop, because it's like all of a sudden the pastor's daughter returns, and she's immediately like in this love triangle, right, with the youth pastor and the worship leader.
I think they're trying to hit on Christian movie tropes, but they like, it's like once they make it obvious that's what they've done, then they just move on to the next one.
I don't know where to go with it. Yeah. So it's like a full stop, and then we're gonna pivot in and do something else. I will say though, like Joey Fatone as the worship leader was hilarious to me.
Oh, dude!
Like he said, I was like, yo, that's
Well, like what? Like
we did ourselves, man. We need to examine ourselves.
Yeah, well, and like whenever they're rehearsing, right, and the guitar player is complaining about something, and Joey Fatone's like, if God wanted to be glorified, he would have hired professionals.
That guitarist was hitting them with the real wisdom every time.
People have that mindset though, like that is an underlying pride, and this is why a lot of the musicians in the church aren't even saved. You know what I'm saying? And we got this whole works for hire relationships. We're not concerned about their souls. We're concerned about the seats. And that really ties into a lot of what was going on in this particular movie. So for him to state that out loud, I think that's a really kind of gut check. If God wanted to be glorified, he would hire professionals. Dude, that's a slap in the face to the homegrown member of the church who God is blessed and gifted to play and wants to grow and wants to learn, but they get trumped by this popular person who has a following. And even though they play in the club on Saturday night, they're more than welcome to come in, play at the church, get a check, leave early. You know what I'm saying? Like that whole dynamic. Like I laughed, but I loved the fact that he made mention of that because, again, to your point, just the whole satire and, hey, poke yourself, man, to make sure that you're awake and not sleeping. Like I think stuff like that is important.
I think that's what I meant when I said like they were bringing out these tropes and just putting it right out there in your face. It was like the movie is very self-aware. Like there's a scene like that with the pastor that he says, God made me entrepreneurial and I could have been a CEO, but I decided to build his kingdom instead. I don't know if that's exactly how he said it, but like just the fact that he said it, it was so unnatural. It was like, okay, he's putting this out there for pastors.
Well, I mean, like going back to Joey Fatone with the worship leader, like there's actually a scene where he's explaining why he became the worship leader there, right? And he's like, I figured I could get noticed by a record label by being here. I didn't miss that part. I missed that part. So I think it's when he takes the pastor's daughter to dinner or to run an errand. He says, and he takes her to dinner.
End up at a restaurant, right?
Hijacking a date, but like his, and we see that, man. You think, okay, how many worship bands from these mega churches end up becoming, what we hear on the radio and what other churches sing and all this stuff, right? So he's like, I could have. He said something like, I could have been on Broadway, but I think this was the stage I was supposed to be on. And she's like,
yeah, that's what he said. Like, I could have been on Broadway, but I decided to come here. Something he said it all weird.
Yeah. But then going back to the pastor, then the lead pastor. Now, so obviously the main part of this that we kind of see in the trailer as well is Easter Sunday's coming up, and we got to figure out what we're going to do. How are we going to outdo what we've done in the past? Right, and so they decide that
cutting edge.
Yeah, and they decide they're going to have a live crucifixion. They're going to crucify someone from the congregation. And here's
a medical expert on hand.
Right, and so they want to crucify the youth leader. Right? They bring him in like, we got a great opportunity for you.
You mean like in Mexico and Portugal?
What? You didn't tell me
genuinely surprising.
You didn't tell me this was a thing?
Because it's a mockery of the gospel.
But so here's what, like, I caught this the second time. Like when they, so like right after that is when he goes and meets the kids at the bus, right, or at the van to go to the ministry thing, and they've all already heard that he's going to be crucified, right? So they're asking him about it. I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but there's a funny exchange. One of the kids goes, I think it was a girl that goes, "Is it going to be biblical?" And then another boy goes, "Are you going to be naked?" And then his follow-up is, "My mom would definitely come to church if you're going to be naked."
Oh, this movie. It has some funny moments.
Right?
It really did. Like naturally funny. Like funny that made sense. Funny that wasn't contrived. It wasn't forced. Like they really did a good job in that respect. Like if it fell short in other areas, there's some writing. There's some real gems actually in this movie, I think. And I think it helps in age, and it picks up and kind of covers and makes up the difference in some of the other areas.
I feel like this movie was written for churches to watch together. Because there's not a lot of context in which I will watch something like this. Like, you guys totally made me watch this. But if if it was like, okay, after church, we're all going to watch this movie together and talk about it. Should be fun, get a snack, blah, blah, blah. I could see churches doing that. if they weren't like insecure.
So, I don't know. I don't want to give away the ending in case anyone wants to see it. And obviously, Zero hasn't seen the ending.
I'll finish watching it tonight.
But Katie, I know you were talking about how the ending, and I agree with you, man. I think that the ending does have a serious kind of overtone to it, right? So, talk about just for you why the ending is like kind of. It sounds like maybe the most important part for you.
It is because, and not just with this movie, but how things end is vitally important. Like, and bear with me. I'm gonna venture off a little bit here. As saints of God, we know that we're holding out for the ending, right? We're living to live again, and so the ending is important because ultimately the ending is another beginning, right? How movies end, how albums end, how pieces of art, when we look at that stuff, because ultimately it's about the journey, right? We have to start somewhere, but am I leaving you in a better place? Did we arrive somewhere collectively where things now make sense and whatever was going on previously can be trumped by the end result? And stuff like that is important to me. Mm-hmm. Like when I look at movies like The Resurrection of Gavin Stone, I don't know if you guys have seen that. The ending and his now realization and which works towards his redemption, which works towards like those things are important, and especially for us as believers, because we have to be so big on redemption, and it's our job. We've been given the ministry of reconciliation, so being able to see individuals reconcile their differences with God, reconcile their differences with each other, reconcile their differences within themselves, like that is important. So again, not giving away specifics of the details, but the ending of the movie is very poignant to me. If it can make me tear up, it's legit. And it did that. And again, it wasn't forced. It's not contrived. It's not fake either. And so if you go and you watch the ending, please be of the understanding that what happens in the ending is a visual of a lot of times what goes on in the spiritual, or what needs to take place in the spiritual with a lot of individuals. So it's that deep, but it's very well done from an artistic standpoint, I believe. With the symbolism that's involved, I think it's necessary. And it gets them back to a ground zero, which is what redemption does for us, right? It's a reset. We get back right with the Lord. Even if we've gotten with the Lord and we've ventured off, we get back right with the Lord. May strike some, Calvinists wrong, but we get back right with the Lord, and again, now we reset and we're able to move forward. And so again, the redemption aspect of the movie was very big for me.
Yeah. I'll say this, man. You talked about movies like like War Room and some of those, and I think for those like kind of drama style movies, Christian films have gotten better with those, right? This movie makes me hopeful for comedies and what could potentially be coming, especially if we embrace it and we're willing to push that envelope, right? And not be worried about, are we going too far? Because I don't think they went too far in this movie, and it was done well. Because if I'm gonna be honest, I might watch a movie like War Room once, but I'm probably not gonna sit down and say, man, I just want to unwind tonight. Let me throw in War Room.
Yeah, I agree. I got to be feeling a certain type of way.
Comedy does seem to be at the forefront of our culture.
So hopefully there's some more movies like that, and that this can build off of. Maybe this is the first step. Oh boy, I hear crying back behind me. Hopefully you guys don't. But
too late.
That's my hope. That's my hope. So, I don't know, Jay Shane. Like, what do you think based off of what we've been saying so far?
I mean, I think the film. I mean, with everything that everybody said so far, I'm probably going to sit down and watch it now because it's a film that has its place. It's a film that helps speak in a non-aggressive way to some of the ills, if I can use that word correctly, to the ills of church culture is the way that I'll put it. With the way that you guys have been talking, I mean, aside from some of the cinematic or acting issues, it seems like it's a fun film that addresses just church culture, good or bad, right or wrong, and makes people think. And it's you know, from the trailer, it seems some of it's flamboyant, but that's probably a good thing. So I'm very very intrigued at this point. So yeah, I think it'll be a good film to watch.
Thank you.
And Eric, I like War Room, so I'm not going to take what you said personally earlier, but
I'm not trying to knock it. I'm just saying I mean, a movie like that.
It's not gonna be like the first one you want to watch. Like,
no, I feel that. So that's but no, you guys have for somebody who has not seen it yet, you guys have intrigued me to the point that I actually want to watch it.
So let's do this real quick. I mean, I think whenever you do a review or a reaction to something like this, you gotta give it some sort of score, right? I think we're used to doing a grade, you know, with some of the like music feedback stuff. 0. If you had to give this movie Church People from Thor Ramsey and Stephen Baldwin and these guys a grade, where are you grading it?
Based on what I've seen, a B+. They still got to work on that lighting situation.
All right, KD, what are you giving it?
Same B+ from me. Yep, I think it covers a number of things, and I like the way that Shane put it. It's really like in-house commentary that does address and again makes light of and kind of exposes it so that we can look at ourselves. It's intentional in regards to that. So I think they do a good job of that. So B+ for me as well.
Okay, I'd probably give it a B. I think it's which I feel like, you know, a B is good. I think there's a lot of opportunity to take it further as well. So I want to reflect that. But I mean, I feel like this is a very solid effort here. I mean, I watched it twice.
It's not a failure by any means. This movie.
No. I mean, well, but for me, you know, even when I was watching it the second time, it's not like I was like at any point going, okay, I've already seen it, I'm gonna turn it off. I've seen enough of, you know, I watched it, you know, all the way through, and I'd watch it again. You know, am I gonna watch it on a regular basis? Maybe not, but I would watch it again.
Movie, can you? It's not the Emperor's New Groove. I mean, come on.
Maybe.
Versus him.
So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone's tuned in. Jay Shane, has anyone been more in the chat? I feel like it might be cool for us to do some more stuff like this.
We need to have Joe from Montessori Studios next time.
Okay, well, let's get him involved. But I think it's fun to do it as something extra for us as a staff. And if anyone is watching this and you've got any suggestions on something that we should check out, let us know. I mean, because like we said, what we're doing here at FiveTwenty Collective, it's about, you know, indie Christian culture. So we want to highlight that. And but like I said, so we wanted to talk about the movie tonight, not only because we watched it and we just wanted to give you our thoughts, but it actually kind of has sparked an idea for a deeper conversation that we can have. And we're going to do that on Saturday night on Twitter Spaces. Katie, let me throw it over to you. Just kind of let people know that might be watching what we're going to give a little preview of what we're going to be talking about on the Twitter space?
Sure. So this Saturday, I think it's 8 Central Standard Time. We'll get together at Twitter. We'll post links and information. But as we've been doing, we want to just kind of take a deeper look at a particular subject, and of course, make sure we do so from a biblical standpoint, kind of hold like this town hall type deal. So this Saturday, we'll be talking about while church is failing, the church is not. We want to be intentional about making a distinction between church and the church, and the importance of that, and where our focus should be as the body of Christ and as a kingdom, and where our support should lie. And just, again, taking a deeper look at that. And, again, tying it into the movie, some of the things that we've seen, some of the church culture things that we like, don't like, etc. We just want to kind of take a deeper look at that and encourage individuals to get behind what God has established. So we'll be doing that this Saturday, Twitter Spaces, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And back to you, Eric.
All right, man. Thanks. So again, guys, if you haven't seen it, Church People, it's on Amazon Prime. You can actually see it on
I think it's
YouTube as well. I don't know.
With a link to the movie and
a
link to this video.
We can link it. Go check it out. Let us know what you think, man. Jump on Twitter, jump into the Discord, and let us know what you think. I'd be interested to hear other thoughts as well, because I was pretty impressed with it overall. So, Zero, any final thoughts from you, man?
I need to finish
before we get out of here.
Need to finish watching the movie, and pray for me. I got the station that I'm still putting together. I got a ton of interviews that I'm trying to edit together. There's a lot. I won't have no free time until Friday.
Yeah, well, you don't got too much free time on Friday, because Zero and I will be back here Friday night recording the July podcast as well. Like we said, we're going to talk about
that's real.
The line,
involuntary twist.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that line between Christianity and patriotism. It's July, and we just celebrated the 4th and Independence Day, and there's a lot. We were shooting guns, apparently, is what KD was saying. I think that was.
Wait, you were?
No rest for the weary, Zero. Come on.
I couldn't get anybody that. I want to go to the range so bad.
KD's in Chicago, man. We all know what was going on.
Oh, well, yeah.
Listen, okay. And to that point, and even I don't even want to kind of make fun of that, because I know you guys probably saw what happened. Highland Park, Illinois, on the 4th, Monday, with the whole gunman who apparently had a whole other attack planned for Wisconsin, which is literally like a drive, about an hour or so from where he was. So just prayers for the families, people who lost loved ones, all of that stuff, man. Like, it's really another reminder to not take life for granted. So
it's crazy, man. But I know that there's a lot of people that feel certain ways right now.
And that's the difference between when a psychopath gets his hands on a gun and when a responsible adult has a gun. Like, be the responsible person. Take care of your family. Baptize your kids. Go to a church. Get planted. Get rooted. Get centered. So when somebody puts a gun in your hand, you go to the range and don't become a psychopath.
Yeah. But even beyond that, I mean, I know that with the way that stuff's been in society, there was a lot of feelings just across the board.
Yeah. They're trying to ascribe motive for political reasons and stuff, and it's like, dude, people are psychopaths. Like, they're doing it.
I mean, I saw a lot of stuff, like, and we'll get into it on Friday, but I mean, people boycotting the 4th of July, and there's some pretty crazy stuff, I mean, so, but we're gonna talk about it for Christian culture, like, how does that look? How do we, how are we good Christians? How are we good citizens? And at what point do those maybe go hand in hand? At what point maybe do they don't? Maybe do they not go hand in hand? So, but yeah, man. Thanks for checking out this this reaction to Church People here on FiveTwenty Collective, and we'll see you again soon. Let's go.